The world often seemed to rest on Marco's shoulders, a burden he carried with a solitary stoicism. At 31, he was tall and athletic, his dark brown eyes holding a depth that spoke of a life lived fully, if not always easily. A medium-length hairstyle, neatly trimmed low on the sides, framed a face that could have graced Italian fashion magazines, though he hailed from California. He was a man of patience and pragmatism, his successful business a testament to his cool-headed decision-making, a stark contrast to the impulsive nature that sometimes characterized his family. This pragmatism extended to his downtime. Solitude was his preferred companion, often found fishing alone by a quiet riverside. His luxurious life, a consequence of both personal and family success, was interwoven with betrayal and drama. Unmarried, with no children, his world had been populated by many women, yet none had anchored him. His family consisted of his parents, 2 brothers, Leo and Gabe, and 2 sisters, Amy and Lorene. All married, save for Amy. Even though Marco preferred calm, lonely vocations, for now this family vacation was an island teeming with tourists, precisely the kind of escape Marco loathed. He'd argued for an island, something remote, but his brothers, ever keen to poke, had overridden him. Still sulking about not getting your quiet island countryside, big brother? Leo had grinned, Gabe chiming in with a similar jab. Marco offered no reply, but the subtle tightening of the grain around his jaw spoke volumes. These younger brothers, often more aggressive, pushed until Marco, preferring retreat to pointless conflict, excused himself to his room. On the island, the whole family had assembled, except for Marco's mother. She'd cited a doctor's appointment, unmovable and non-negotiable. As Marco headed towards his room, his phone rang. It was her. The call was surprisingly normal, a simple mother-son check-in, devoid of their usual conversational landmines and differing life philosophies. This very normalcy set Marco on edge. Something felt off. Lost in thought, he barely registered his arrival at the hotel's grand main hall until he lightly bumped into a young woman, a little over 25. "Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you all right? Can I help you with anything?" she offered, her concern genuine. Marco blinked, a small lag before he processed the interaction. A charming, apologetic smile touched his lips. "My apologies. Actually, yes. If you wouldn't mind," he said smoothly, handing her his documents. "Could you ask at the main bar for my room keys? I seem to be a bit disoriented." A few seconds later, he turned and walked away, oblivious or perhaps indifferent to the ripple of attention their brief encounter had caused. The scene had a cinematic quality. The handsome, preoccupied man, the helpful stranger, the kind of meet-cute that launched 1,000 romances. But Marco, his mind already back on his unease, showed no interest in scripting such a narrative. The guest's interest quickly faded, but Marco's certainty that something was amiss solidified. Ascending the gorgeous hotel stairs, he called his sister Amy. "Hey, I'll join you all for the party at the bar tonight, but I might be late." "Everything okay, Marco?" Amy's voice was laced with genuine concern. She was the only one in the family he felt truly understood him, or at least truly cared without agenda. "Fine, Amy, just some things to sort out." He knew she wasn't part of whatever was brewing. His room was a haven of luxurious minimalism, white and brown dominating, with subtle dark green decor. The piece de resistance was the panoramic seaside view, breathtaking to anyone else. Marco, however, barely glanced at it. Within 2 minutes, his notebook was open, Wi-Fi connected, phone ready, a glass of water at hand. His research began. First, Tony, his best friend and second in command. "Something's off, Tony," Marco stated, detailing the forced trip, his mother's odd behavior. "It could be nothing, or it could be anything, from a blind date set up for a family's sake to a play for my business. I need a small team, discreet, to check if there are any unusual movements within the company." Next, Nanny Lara. At 65, she was a force, privy to every household secret but masterfully diplomatic. She'd been with them since Marco was 6, a rare constant of respectful professionalism. He'd hoped for a subtle warning from her, a hint if something major was afoot. But Lara merely wished him a pleasant trip, adding, "Whatever happens is God's will, Marco. Live the life that suits you." The words gave him pause, a moment of introspection, before he moved on. His girlfriend Cecil was next. The call was brief, unsatisfying. Cecil was rushed. Preparing for a new project, swamped, she'd said. Marco murmured, slowly placing his phone on the table, his other hand reaching for the water. An odd feeling settled in him. Moments later, his phone flashed. Tony. "Hi, Tony," Marco answered, fatigue lacing his voice. "Any news?" A long pause. "Well, how to say it, Marco? I found something. Not sure if it's what you were looking for, or how you'll take it. For me, it'd be a big problem, man, but you're you," Tony rambled. "Tony." "Shorter," Marco interrupted, the weariness deepening. "Oh, okay. Cecil. She's leaving the country. Tonight. Your mom offered her a job in London." Silence stretched between them. "Marco. Man, say something." Tony eventually broke in. "Cecil's leaving. Aren't you going to stop her? You there?" "Yeah, I'm here, Tony. I hear you." Marco's voice was flat. "If that's all, it's late here. I'm tired, trying to make sure work is fine. I need some rest. You too. Excellent job." He ended the call. Tony, on the other end, was a mix of confusion and shock. Then, a sigh. This is Marco. What did I expect?" In his room, Marco sat on the sofa, a glass of red wine in hand, finally gazing at the panoramic view. "That's when this view gets so handy," he mused aloud. The day ended, his thoughts his own. That night, Marco decided against immediate action. Decisions born of emotion were rarely sound. Though exhausted, he'd promised Amy he'd attend the party. As he walked through the venue, an old woman stared intently at him, as if wanting to convey something. Marco offered a gentle, questioning look, an invitation for her to speak. She remained silent. As he passed, she whispered, "A man without a heart." The words were quiet, yet clear. Marco continued on. He found Amy looking sad and bored. "Hey sis, why are you here? I told you I'd be late." Amy moved to his side, tilting her head. "They're too boring for me," she said with a sad smile. "Don't tell them. They think they're very cool." They both chuckled, sharing a brief hug. "Marco, is everything okay? You look a little tired," Amy asked, concern in her eyes. "Tired?" Marco feigned surprise. "Are you sure I look tired, not sad?" he teased, a playful smile touching his lips as they walked towards the entrance. "I thought I looked sad." "No, Marco, I'm serious. You wouldn't leave me here if this weren't important." "My darling, you should know everything," Marco continued, his laughter light. "I'll be okay. This isn't something you need to worry about. Let's have fun, okay? You know your bro can handle things. I'm a capable man, you know it."
Ha 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 ha! Amy smiled. "But you know you can always count on me. I'm the coolest sister in the world. Admit it, bro."
"Yeah, you are," Marco agreed warmly. As they entered, Leo and Gabe, already lubricated with alcohol, intercepted them with 2 young ladies. "Who came?" "Marco came." "Who came?" Marco came," Leo slurred, barely upright. "Easy there, little bro," Marco cautioned. Amy glanced at the foursome. "Do they even know that you are—" she asked her brothers, pointedly tapping her ring finger. "Don't be like him," Gabe slurred, waving her hand away. "Of course, they know, sis," Leo chimed in, then caught Marco's icy glare. He froze, took a deep breath, nudged Gabe, and indicated Marco's serious expression. The signal was clear. They retreated to their seats, Gabe quickly ushering the girls into the crowd, from which he soon emerged, alone. Marco ordered non-alcoholic drinks for his brothers, and the evening passed without further incident. The next day, the entire family gathered in a small island cafe, Everyone, except Amy, knew about Cecil. They anticipated Marco's wrath, his punishment. Marco alone wielded more power than the rest of them combined. Their fear was palpable. Yet they had acted behind his back. Cecil wasn't just another woman in Marco's orbit. She was an influencer whose family connections spanned the country's business elite. Her own acumen was formidable. She was smart, capable, beautiful, confident, a born winner, the kind of woman any man would want by his side. The cafe door chimed. Slow, powerful, confident steps approached. A figure in a stylish black suit and Italian leather Oxford boots emerged from behind a bookshelf. Marco. The time has come, a collective unspoken thought. I see you're all gathered. Let's have a seat. The food smells delicious. Marco said, taking a place beside Amy. Why are you staring at me? Take your seats, please. His tone was no longer light. It was an order. As most of you know, you've seriously messed with my life. Because of that, I'm sure you won't object if I leave after this meeting. I have a flight in an hour. Decisions have been made, setting off a chain of reactions that need to be addressed ASAP. As Marco spoke, a middle-aged man, the cook, bustled from the kitchen, presenting a local fish dish with a flourish. He launched into a proud 5-minute monologue about its complex preparation. During this, Leo, Gabe, and Laureen whispered urgently. Leo. What? No punishment? Laureen. Shush, you don't know him. If he doesn't punish you now, he remembers. You'll get it later. Leo. Sis, why did we even agree to Mum's idea then? God damn it. Gabe. Because, little by little, our business has become dependent on Marco. What if he decides to go differently one day? We have to be strong on our own. Shush, Amy interrupted. I don't know what you're doing, but show some respect, please. Just then, a young girl, barely out of her teens, perhaps early 19s, burst from the kitchen door, colliding with the cook. The platter flew from his hands, its contents landing squarely on Rice's, Marco's father's, face. A large fish slithered down Marco's pristine white shirt, splattering onto his trousers. Everyone froze, shocked. Even Marco, master of composure, couldn't suppress his reaction. He was smiling. A wide, genuine smile. The girl was already sprinting away. 10 seconds later, a noisy voice erupted. Darling, stop her! She took the money and the passport. She's leaving. Hurry up! Money and passport, I said. An overweight, middle-aged woman rushed into the dining room. You won't catch her, Marco said, his smile unwavering. And then he simply walked out of the cafe. After Marco left the cafe, all the family members stood in silence. What the hell was that? Rice finally exclaimed with an angry rhetorical voice, and the tension slightly faded. Then Amy started to smile slightly under her lips. In that smile was a little irony too. Don't worry, Father. You can use the bathroom if you don't mind, whispered Laureen. She wanted to call for the cafe personnel for help, but she quickly found out that no one was there. What, she shouted and punched her seat as hard as she could. At that time, Leo and Gabe were still stunned. Then both simultaneously started laughing with words.
Dad, you look exactly as we thought you would after this conversation. But we couldn't imagine that the one who punishes you would be a crazy young girl.
Shush, whispered Amy again, and quietly left in a hurry, a little smile playing on her lips. As soon as she appeared on the street corner, she took her phone and started messaging Marco. Marco, what was that? Don't you think you have to explain to me what is happening? What have they done to you? And mainly what a smile was on my brother's face while you left. Just for a second I thought that it was because of what happened to Father, but I am quite sure that you wouldn't be happy with things like that. Leo and Gabe, yes they could, but not you. Definitely not you. Call me as soon as possible. ASAP. I do mean it, my dear brother. I am intrigued. By this time, Marco was on a call with Tony to prepare for an emergency board meeting. The conversation was long, as Cecil's departure was a big problem for Marco's company, and many aspects needed to be solved. While they were talking, Marco was busy changing his clothes, and as soon as he was done with that, he opened his laptop and started to manage several documents simultaneously. It was intense to manage that many tasks at once and not mess up. But this was Marco, and it wasn't a problem for him. He was doing it all with a calm face as always. But this time there was definitely something new. From time to time on his face, a small, innocent smile appeared. And then, as if forcibly pulled away, his usual still, calm, and restrained look returned. The road towards the airport was completely free. Here and there, only a few cars on a completely straightforward highway. Arranged to get there in 10 minutes. When they arrived at the airport, Marco couldn't help but notice the cook from the cafe and the overweight woman in animated discussion with an airport guard. Phones out, likely showing a picture. A faint, unreadable expression crossed Marco's face. He'd seen the girl's unusual smile as she fled, an expression that didn't quite match the portrait of a common thief being painted now. He had his own pressing business and a flight to catch, his mind already on board meetings and company strategy. He settled into his car to manage several documents, the airport's transient dramas a mere backdrop. After a few minutes, an interesting thing happened nearby. A woman, completely covered in a religious black veil, approached another middle-aged woman, who was struggling with her own bags, asking if she could help her with 2 suitcases, assuring they weren't heavy. It was close enough for Marco to overhear. It might have seemed an ordinary act of kindness, but Marco's attention, usually laser-focused on his work, snagged on a detail most would miss. Perhaps the slight tremor in the veiled woman's voice, or the way her covered hand clutched one of the suitcases. "Mika, what do you think about those women there?" Marco asked his driver, his voice neutral. Mika glanced over. "Nothing, sir," he answered gently. "Just a tired woman needing help with luggage, and another offering it, perhaps." At that answer, Marco offered a non-committal hum and returned to his spreadsheet. Yet a sliver of his attention remained on the periphery. He was deep into another complex chapter of a report when he next looked up. The airport guard, the same one who had been talking to the cook and the other woman, was now in a rather stern conversation with the woman in the black veil and her new companion. Something about the scene, the guard's officious posture, the veiled woman's slight frame seeming to shrink under scrutiny, triggered an unfamiliar and inexplicable impulse in Marco. He didn't consciously decide to intervene. One moment he was analyzing data, the next, he was snapping his laptop shut. "Gather our things, Mika. We're going in," he said, his voice calm but decisive. Mika's eyebrows shot up in concern, but Marco was already out of the car, moving with quick, purposeful steps towards the unfolding confrontation, a strange sense of conviction settling over him that this was something he simply had to do. He appeared seemingly out of nowhere beside the veiled woman, his presence immediately shifting the dynamic. "Can't you see? She is all wet because of that luggage in the sun?" Marco asked the guard, his tone deliberately arrogant. "Why are you holding her?" The guard, surprised by the sudden appearance of this well-dressed, authoritative man, straightened. "I'm doing my job, sir," the guard replied, his own tone unaffected, but with a hint of surprise. "You'd better help her with that luggage if you want to do your job well," Marco retorted, then seemed to wave a dismissive hand. "But let it be. Today I'm in a good mood and I'll help." His tone shifted, becoming almost exaggeratedly pleasing, a stark contrast to his initial impatience. "You can continue what you were doing till this time. You are so good at it." With that, he deftly took the 2 suitcases from the veiled woman's side. He leaned in slightly towards her, his voice dropping to a low whisper only she could hear. "Please, move. You smell like fish. Move until I'm in a good mood. He then gently but firmly guided her forward. This way, madam. They started towards the main lobby, leaving the guard momentarily speechless. He stared after them, his face a mask of surprise, and began to mumble to himself. Such strange people. Who gets wet in weather like this? It doesn't seem that hot today. And the smell from that woman was odd, too. Hey, sir, could you hold the door, please? My hands are full, a voice called out, interrupting the guard's bewildered thoughts. It was Mika, laden with 3 medium-sized suitcases, a stack of documents, and a laptop precariously balanced. Strange people, the guard muttered again under his breath, reluctantly holding the door. Boss, wait, please. I'm coming, Mika shouted, hurrying to catch up as Marco and the veiled woman neared a less crowded alcove. When he finally reached them, slightly out of breath, he took one look at the woman with Marco and exclaimed, Ugh, what a smell. And why are you wet in such a strange way? And what are you doing with my boss? Mika continued, his words tumbling out in his usual excited rush. Mika, take a breath, Marco said, his voice calm but firm. He then turned to the veiled woman, a hint of something almost apologetic in his eyes, as he explained quietly, Forgive him. Even though he isn't a person who speaks much generally, when he gets excited, he can become quite insistent. Then, Marco focused his attention back on his driver. Mika, I need you to look after this lady for a moment. Keep her here, comfortably and out of sight. His gaze flickered briefly to the suitcases he'd carried. The ones he'd noted felt suspiciously light. I have a situation to manage regarding our departure. Something essential, Marco said cryptically, and with a final nod, he turned and strode away purposefully, leaving Mika looking bewildered, and the veiled woman presumably even more so. While Marco was leaving, the woman in a veil was looking at him and, without taking away her sight, made a question. Who is he, and why is he helping? Can I trust him? Does he know me? And if he does, how much can he know? Even if these questions were quiet, Mika heard them all and couldn't hold himself from interrupting. Sorry, what do you mean by that? Who are you, and on what mess have we just stepped in? OMG, don't even answer. I'm not interested at all. I was told to take a break. It isn't my concern, said Mika with an annoyed intonation. Lana barely registered his annoyance. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Every passing shadow looked like a threat. She had to move. Now. I'm not sure what he's up to, she muttered, more to herself than Mika, glancing at Marco's retreating figure. But I have to get on that plane. I have to leave. Her eyes darted around, landing on a small, unattended stack of luggage, left momentarily by a distracted family a short distance away. In a surge of panicked instinct, telling herself she needed to look like she had belongings, she made a split-second decision. Are you coming or just standing there? She threw over her shoulder at Mika, not waiting for a reply. She swiftly moved to the abandoned bags, grabbing 2 of the smaller, manageable-looking suitcases. They weren't hers, but in her fear, they represented a desperate bid for normalcy and escape. Clutching them tightly, she hurried towards what she hoped was the boarding gate for her flight. She hadn't gone far, however, when a man in a police uniform, a different one this time, stepped into her path. Sorry, ma'am, he said, his voice polite but firm, indicating the suitcases. You can't proceed this way with these. They need to be properly handled first, either checked in or cleared through the main security checkpoint, if they're carry-ons. This man was approximately 1.60 meters tall, very slim, with long, black, shiny hair. He had rounded eyes, a big nose, and an accurately trimmed long beard. This was the head of security, Alex. He was known for being a really strange person, a man who loved joking about everything, yet, beneath the levity, he always controlled the situation, acutely aware of everything happening in his domain and knowing precisely what needed his attention. When Alex addressed Lana as ma'am, a flash of anger crossed her face, quickly suppressed. She managed an innocent voice. "Oh, sorry, officer. I was just trying to help that young man over there." She gestured vaguely towards Mika, who was still looking bewildered in the distance. He seemed to have his hands full. "If these are a problem, perhaps you could return them to him. He'll know what to do with them. And by the way, I'm not a ma'am, sir." Alex's eyes twinkled, a smile playing on his lips, as if he enjoyed her quick thinking. "Of course, miss," he said smoothly, effortlessly taking the 2 random suitcases from her. "Consider it done." Before Lana could fully process it, Alex had already turned and, with surprising speed, approached Mika, the confiscated suitcases in hand. Lana watched, perplexed, as Alex slung an arm around a very startled Mika. "What is going on, Mika, my friend?" Alex boomed with a loud, conspiratorial smile, though Mika looked thoroughly confused, clearly not recognizing him. "Trying to rope young ladies into hauling your boss's extra luggage now, are we? Playing the big shot?" Mika, flustered and angry at this overly familiar stranger, started to protest. "I don't know you, and these aren't—" "Easy, boy, easy," Alex chuckled, patting Mika's shoulder. "Just joking. Everything's all right. You two can go on and get to your seats. Don't worry about a thing. I'll handle all the rest." He winked. Then with a series of quick, almost bouncing steps, he and the suitcases disappeared towards a staff corridor, a strange, whistled tune trailing behind him. Mika stared after him, dumbfounded. Lana, equally baffled but sensing an unexpected reprieve, didn't waste a second. She hurried towards the boarding call for her flight, Mika trailing after her, still muttering in confusion. Thanks to Alex's unorthodox intervention, whatever it meant, they both found themselves on the plane within minutes, albeit seated in different sections. Lana, still veiled, sank into her assigned seat, her mind a whirlwind. Stewardesses bustled back and forth, assisting passengers. Suddenly, an elegant figure appeared beside her aisle seat. It was Marco, holding a discreet, expensive-looking shopping bag. He placed it on the empty seat next to her. "Now you are safe," he said, his voice a low normal tone that somehow cut through the cabin noise. "You don't need to cover your identity any longer. You should change." Frankly, his eyes flickered briefly over her veiled form. "Your current state is likely causing discomfort to others, and certainly to yourself." He paused. "Please, I know you haven't got anything with you. Use these." He indicated the bag. "I believe I guessed the sizes correctly. At least I tried." Lana, momentarily speechless, felt a flush rise under her veil. His words were blunt, almost rude, yet the gesture was undeniably kind, and a wave of something akin to relief washed over her. She nodded, took the bag, and made her way to the lavatory. Inside the small space, as she pulled out the clothes, simple, good quality, and blessedly clean things, jeans, a soft t-shirt, underwear, even new sneakers that looked astonishingly like her size, her mind drifted. A prince, she thought, a wistful, girlish fantasy unfurling. He swooped in, solved problems, even bought clothes. Then reality intruded. Okay, maybe a slightly odd and very rude prince. She corrected herself with a wry mental smile. But who cares? He's helping. She quickly changed, the feel of fresh fabric against her skin a small miracle. But as she looked at her reflection, no longer a shadowy fugitive, but just a tired young woman, the fantasy faded further. "Stop dreaming, Lana," she told her reflection sternly. "There are no princes left." Taking a deep breath, she opened the lavatory door, half expecting, half hoping to see him waiting, but the aisle was clear. Her prince, the strange man who had helped her so much, was gone. A pang of disappointment, sharp and unexpected, hit her. Why would he do all that, and then just disappear without a word? But there was nothing to do but find her seat and face whatever came next. Meanwhile, in his business class seat in another section of the plane, Marco had already settled back in. He took a moment, his gaze distant, replaying the absurd, chaotic events of the last hour. The fish, the family drama, the veiled girl, the airport interventions. A fleeting, almost imperceptible emotion flickered across his features before his usual mask of cool composure slotted firmly back into place. He had a company to run. "Where have you been, boss?" Mika asked from the adjacent seat. His curiosity piqued, but then he seemed to think better of prying. "Actually, never mind. While you were indisposed, I managed to arrange a few important meetings for when we land. Can you take a look at the schedule, please?" He proffered a tablet. Marco took it, his focus instantly sharpening. "Good. Let's review." And just like that, the conversation shifted to strategies, financials, and appointments. To any observer, and certainly to Mika, it was as if the whirlwind interlude with the mysterious young woman had never happened. The pragmatic, controlled Marco was firmly back in his element.